Hey guys, today we're taking a look at Aputure's COB120T and COB120D, which I have inside of this bag here. Now, just to start, I'm probably not going to run through a lot of lighting tests. There's a bunch online. These have been out for a long time. There's some really great reviews online. Everybody has done all type of lighting tests, so you guys can see samples in other videos of, of how wide it throws, how far it throws, how much lumens it outputs, the color, CRI, and all that other stuff. People have done a lot of lighting tests, so you're welcome to check that out. I just want to start that out so you're not wasting your time in this video if that's what you're expecting to see. But I've had these lights for a little while, and I'm just going to kind of talk about my personal view if it matters to you. If it doesn't, then just leave the video. But it's just, I'm talking about these lights because I use other lights as well, and I want to just kind of talk about how this fits in and what to expect if you're thinking about getting these lights. So to start out, if you're planning on getting these lights, if you're thinking about should I buy these lights, then my answer to that is yes, you should definitely buy these lights if it fits the type of lighting that you do. These are great lights. Pretty much everything about it is perfect. There's just some small things that you may want to be aware of. Not that they're cons, but there's some considerations to using these lights, and we'll go through that. So anyways, yeah, I'm not gonna run through a bunch of the lighting tests because it's already been done. These are great lights. Whatever specs are being put out there, it's true. These are great lights, so buy them. Anyways, let's start with the basics. If you guys are still here watching this, here is the main head. This is exactly the same as the COB120D, the new daylight version that they have out. So they don't have a bicolor version of these lights. It's either daylight or tungsten, so it depends on which one you want to get. And it's great that they're doing that because you get a lot of power in one color rather than sacrificing power for having two colors. I mean, it's handy, but you get a lot of power off either daylight or tungsten. You get a reflector here, and this is your standard Bowens mount, which we'll get into because it's really handy to have that standard Bowens mount. A lot of photography accessories have already been made to Bowens mount, and so you can use all of these different adapters. You couldn't typically do that with lights before because the lights were hot. If they were halogen or tungsten or whatever high power they were, the Bowens adapters like softboxes and stuff would probably just catch fire. But now these are LED, so they're running a lot cooler, so you can use a lot of things that were typically designed for monolights and strobes for photography. So there's a ton out there. But anyways, the collector is put on the LED. If you take the collector off, it throws very wide. If you have the collector on, it narrows it a little bit, and it's a little bit brighter, towards the middle circle there. So it's not just throwing light everywhere. So it really helps to have the reflector on there. And then to power this guy up, you have a brick here. This is the AC wall adapter, and then you have the plug that goes into the brick here. But then you have to plug this brick into this right here, to this control. And then from the control, you have a wire that runs up to the light. So let's get this set up. And I just want to point that out because there are a lot of pieces here. There's a reason why they have it this way, but there are a lot of little pieces that you just got to keep with the kit. And basically this bag right here holds one light. So, everything that you need here is going to fit in here. You've got a little bit of extra room, but you can't put a second light in this bag. So just be aware of that this light kit right here, you got one light in this bag. This bag weighs about 14 pounds on its own, with everything in it, about 14 pounds. If you plan on running this light on a battery, your typical V-mount battery is going to run 2.5 to 3 pounds. So you're looking at carrying about 17 pounds for one light with one battery. So just keep that in mind. Now we're not going to use the AC wall adapter, so we don't need these two plugs. Those are only if you're running it off the wall. So you have this plug that goes into the back. Then you have this that goes into this interface. This is the control interface. Now, there's a couple of reasons why they do it this way. Number one, they've removed all of these electronics from the head unit. So it's not going to generate as much heat. You don't have to worry about having all of this stuff built in there. Also, when you have the light up high, you still have access to all of the controls down below. So if you just needed to power it on and off, you needed to adjust the intensity, you could do that from the control here. But what's great is they also include a wireless remote. So every head that you purchase has a wireless remote, but you only need one remote to control a ton of lights. You basically have 3 different channels, and under each channel you have 4 different groups, and within each group you could have a bunch of different lights. So it really depends on how you want to control this. If I was doing a 3-light kit, I could control them separately, or I can control them all together, or I could put 2 in one group and put the third one on its own, and you can basically turn them on and off and change intensity. Remember, there's no color adjustment, so you won't be able to do that, and it's just this little remote here. That kind of defeats, you know, having to deal with DMX, because instead of running like cables everywhere to control all your lights, you just have this wireless remote, and it is wireless. It's not infrared line of sight, so you literally could be, you know, away from the light and still be able to, you know, turn them on and off and change intensity. Let's throw a battery on here. Now, one thing I want to point out is that you want to make sure you're using decent batteries. I have a number of cheap batteries that work on all my other things, like my, you know, Blackmagic Design Ursa and some other LED lighting, but these take quite a bit of power. So when you start to crank them up, they could shut down your battery, and that's just built-in protection from certain batteries. If they're getting overloaded, the battery will shut off. It's kind of like a circuit breaker. It protects itself. The way to reset most batteries is you put it back on its charger, and then that will reset the battery until, you know, you overload it again. So I have a couple of batteries that won't work with these lights, and I have some batteries that do work with these lights. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind, is make sure you're getting decent batteries, you know, 130 watt hour, and also the brand battery and how much amps it can sustain. I don't know a long list or anything, but these right here are the King TV 130 watt hour batteries. They're heavy, they're big, but these seem to hold up, while some of my other batteries, even though they're high capacity, double capacity batteries, they get tripped. So they don't work on here. So another thing to keep in mind. Let's kick this on. I'm gonna dim this a little bit. This is the tungsten version here. And again, the way they design the light is that you can use different adapters on the front. So let's throw something on that I have in the garage. So what I've thrown on here is a beauty dish, and these are typical for strobes, monolights, when you're doing photography. And I just put a sock over here, and this basically takes the single light source in the middle, and then there's kind of this like reflector in the middle, and it bounces it back out, and then it creates a larger light source, and almost like a ring light effect, and it creates a interesting catch light. And I don't know how well this works really, but I just want to show you that you could take some of your old stuff in your garage, if you guys did photography, or just buy these cheap accessories online, and you can literally use it on this light, which is cool because you can work with all types of light modifiers, which is a lot of fun. Another thing you could throw on there is an umbrella. They have an umbrella holder built into the stand here. So there's a little hole, just throw an umbrella on here. Obviously you probably want to use a larger umbrella, but it gives you a shoot through. So it's kind of like setting up a scrim in front of the light. And you'll be able to, you know, use shoot through umbrellas, or if you want to just bounce some of that light, you could use some of those reflecting umbrellas. Again, this is because it's LED. If you wanted to do this on like a real Arri Fresnel, you'll probably melt the umbrella. So you could use a lot of cool modifiers with these lights, and it was smart that they already have this built into the stand. Now, Aputure does make a very large parabolic softbox called the Light Dome. You guys should check that out as well, because that would mount on here. It's just a standard Bowens mount, but it is large and it works incredibly well with this light. Now this light does have a built-in fan, and it's not always on, or it's not spinning at a constant speed. It's kind of a varying speed. You don't really hear it. It's never been a problem using it. Like, I don't think you could hear it now. On the controller here, you could either force the fan on, so there's an option to keep the fan going. So if you're not really worried about noise, you can kind of crank that up and it will kick on. So right now I'm forcing the fan at full speed. I can't really hear it. But then you have an option for auto, so when you change it to auto, it will detect the temperature of the light and it will spin accordingly. So, you know, if it's not very hot, if you're running it at say 30%, then the fan doesn't need to spin as high. So you have that option built in here. So make sure when you're using it, you can either force the fan or set it on auto. Also here on the remote is where you're going to select what channel this light is on and also what group it is. So there's some buttons here. You just set channel and group, and you'll be able to control it with this remote. All right, so we're gonna take a look at what's in this bag over here. Remember, you have the cord. Now, I've stuffed the 120D in here with the Fresnel adapter. So this is an adapter. It's a Bowens mount adapter, and this would go over the top of this light here. Now, there are some vents built in here, so it's not like a true, I mean, the lens, the Fresnel lens, it's a true Fresnel lens, but there are some light leaks that come out the adapter. There are some vents here. I guess you could cover the vents to cover the light leaks, but then I feel like you're covering up the vents that they purposely put here to help dissipate heat. I mean, I haven't tried it, but you know, I don't want to cover it up. But you will get some light spill out of this adapter here. So it's not a super clean adapter. This is how you focus the light. So it's not a super clean Fresnel adapter for this light, but this light is not a traditional Fresnel light. It's more like a mono light. So, you know, this is going to give you better throw, more focused light, more intensity in the middle, but you know, it's not going to be like your traditional Fresnel. All right, so we've got the Aputure 120D out here. Same stuff. So this is where we would set up our battery. All right, so we have the 120D on my right, and we have the 120T on my left here. And what I want to show you guys is the wireless function here. So right now I have both lights set up to channel 1 and group A. So if I was to just press channel 1 and group A, I could basically kill these lights. And then if I want to turn them back on, I can turn them back on, and then I can also change intensity. So I'm just going to hold this button down. You'll see that it starts to dim. Hold the plus down. And then, you know, again, if I turn them off, they're actually in kind of like a sleep mode. So the power button is still illuminated on both of these, and they're just kind of idling, waiting for me to kick them back on. And then I would kick them back on. Now that's really handy, especially if you guys are setting these things up for an event. Let's say a wedding, right? So you're trying to cover the dance floor. You're setting up these lights up on the sides. And, you know, during a wedding, moods change, right? Lighting's always changing. You may set one up closer to the cake and you don't want to kick it on just yet. Maybe you're going to kick it on later. So you can set all your groups here and say, okay, it's cake cutting time. You can kick that light on. When they're done with that, you can turn that off. You can go to the dance floor, turn a different one on, change intensity, you know? So it's really cool to have the wireless feature and have these lights set up in different places. So just to show you, I'm going to change the group here, and I can turn one off and leave the other on. If I wanted to change, turn that one off, I could turn that off because it's on a different group. Turn that one back on and then turn this one back on. So very simple to just set up. You just, again, select the channel and select the group, and then here's your remote. And you can run multiple lights in one single group. So you can have all the lights for a dance floor, all the lights for, I don't know, an outside reception, and again, just kind of mix and match. So one remote, really cool to be able to operate all these lights remotely. Anyways, that's my perspective on the COB120D and 120T. They're essentially the same light, just different colors. And I'm not going to really do lighting tests right now. Maybe I'll do something later, but there are a million of them online, some really, really good ones out there. The color is really good. The lumens is really good. Build quality is really good. Price is really good. I mean, there's not much I could say about these lights. If you guys can afford them, they're definitely worth it. They don't solve all lighting solutions, so you got to consider what kind of light you want to get depending on your project. But they are great lights, and I really like the wireless feature, being able to control them in channels and groups, because that is super helpful when you have to position them somewhere and you don't really have access to them, or running back and forth between lights. You can definitely like adjust them through one remote, so that's really good. But I just kind of want to give my perspective on some of the things that I consider. Like when I'm packing up these lights, I gotta make sure that I'm using the right type of batteries and that I have enough of those batteries depending on the project, because they're not easy on batteries. You know, a good 130 watt battery, maybe you'll get like an hour out of it, and hopefully you're using a good battery that doesn't get tripped. And if you don't have your charger with you, you can't, you know, reset that battery, obviously. And then, you know, the lights are just bigger. So if you wanted to bring multiple lights, again, this bag here, this is the size of a bag for one light. It'll weigh about 14 pounds without a battery. And so you got to consider, if you're going to bring a couple of these, this is what you're going to be traveling with. And you may not always need such a big light. And then these are easy to modify into a larger source, but to narrow them down a little bit, this is the Fresnel that they have, which is not, you know, a perfect design. It will work, but you know, it's a little bit big and kind of clunky. And again, if you're, depending on what you're doing, if you're just trying to do a small hair light, separator light, rim light, accent light, background light, you may not need this big of a light. You could probably get something smaller and then just kind of take care of that task. And you know, so you don't always need a bunch of these in your entire kit. Maybe a few of these in your kit. I don't know, depending on what you do. But so those are some of the things that, you know, I think about when I pack these lights. Some of the modifiers that I may want to bring. I don't know. It's just kind of my point of view. Anyways, I don't know if it was helpful or not, but if you guys have any questions, leave some comments below or on the blog at cheesycam.com.